10 years ago, on a beautiful day in Seoul, South Korea, a 99-story tower suddenly rose, darker than a dog's poop, standing proudly in Gangnam City. It's not just one tower in South Korea, but a total of 100 towers simultaneously appeared all over the world. But no, I decided to leave a review and make a vlog of the challenge to climb the Get-Go Tower in 6 days and 6 nights. Suddenly, this huge thing appeared, and governments from all over the world sent people to investigate. The conclusion drawn was that the tower is 990 meters tall, cast from an exceptionally solid material, bomb-proof, so no one can find a way to get inside. Suddenly, a few people appeared, penetrating the tower walls and coming out, without going through training, but suddenly making a debut in front of the press, being pursued like idols to extract information about how to enter and exit the tower. I didn't know anything. I was sitting on the toilet after finishing a big cup of milk coffee, then suddenly being sucked into a black hole. When I woke up, I found myself on the first floor of the tower, luckily with full clothes on. Those people are called awakeners by the media, randomly selected by some secret forces from various places around the world and dropped into these 100 towers. They held press conferences only talking about what they knew. Basically, on the first floor, awakeners are allowed to choose a profession, and most people choose to be mages or warriors. After cleaning one floor, they will receive various rewards along with a ticket. This leaf-like thing is indeed a ticket for freedom to enter and exit the tower, allowing others to use it as well, but only awakeners can actually climb up to the tower. A reporter raised her hand to ask, "Does anyone know why this tower exists, and why people would risk danger and the monsters inside just to enter?" No one knows the reason for the appearance of these towers, but many know why people want to venture in. The awakener standing nearby waited for the opportunity and then opened the wooden box in her hand, from which a dazzling pile of gold poured out like a stream. Needless to say, the reporters were horrified, being scolded by the boss while working and then seeing a pile of gold spilled on the ground like that. Everyone there understood the reason immediately. Entering the tower feels humble, but coming out not knowing why one is rich. So it became natural for awakeners to sell their tickets for entry from 150 million to 200 million in a short time. Hundreds of people lined up to get them, gradually becoming commonplace. The grocery store owner didn't seem too excited about the news, thinking that these people were living a life of luxury. "Do you see that?" Park Sejin, then 26 years old, buying discounted onions. Whatever the store owner said, he just nodded along, looking at his phone, calculating tuition fees, bank interest and rent. His savings before were about 12 million. That's all he had accomplished in a few months. If the ticket price goes up again, I wonder if Sejin's teeth would all fall out before he could buy one. He stares at the towering black tower, suddenly letting out a heavy sigh. Then suddenly, he remembers he can't lose faith. He cheers himself up by shouting that he will become the chairman soon. Looking at the discounted bundle of onions Sejin just bought, maybe if he follows the way some idols share online, he might make a decent amount of money. Thinking about a bright future, from a guy planting onions to becoming a tower-defeating hero, then proposing to Blackpink's Jisoo, he feels ecstatic just thinking about it, cheering himself up eagerly. Suddenly behind Sejin, something like a swirling vortex appears and expands, until its shadow covers his head, and the wind blows briskly. He realizes there's something there and turns his back to look. It's a gate. At a glance, Sejin recognizes it as the one that sucked the awakeners into the tower. His face flushed with excitement. The opportunity has come. He jumps into the black hole, even though it had been rejecting him, and that's how he appears in this empty cave, not the rumored first floor. It's even worse than a parking lot. To the right is a pond, unsure if it's drinkable water. Above is a skylight to watch the clouds. Overall, it's peaceful. Only inside, Sejin sits skinny like a sleep-deprived fool, lacking even hope. Wandering around this cave for a whole day, Sejin sees no way out. He screams, calls for help, cries, even raps, but then realizes there's no one nearby. Could this be the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland, but with Sejin, the poor guy falling into a land no one knows? In extreme panic, suddenly the phone in his pocket rings. It's already 6 a.m. the next day. The 24-hour challenge as a prehistoric man is over. Now he realizes he's extremely hungry, glancing over at the bag he bought yesterday. Luckily, it's still fresh. A bottle of water, 27 cherry tomatoes, 10 stalks of green onions, a few sweet potatoes, a pumpkin, and an apple. Seijin grabs the apple and bites it eagerly. Eating an apple early in the morning is fine, but eating down to the core still doesn't fill his stomach much. Knowing this now, if he had bought a pack of hot dogs might last for 3 meals, but Seijin doesn't have that, so he turns to attack the sweet potatoes. Why do the sweet potatoes taste so good in his mouth today? Crispy and sweet. Normally he'd steam or grill them, but now he's so hungry that eating them raw seems fine. This is unverified. Whoever has eaten raw sweet potatoes, comment and share your experience. Chewing too quickly, a piece of sweet potato gets stuck in his throat. Seijin grabs the water and drinks frantically, thinking he's about to die. Having eaten and stay alive, he lies back, panting heavily, temporarily relieving his growling stomach so that he can think. Normally, he doesn't have time to gaze at clouds and scenery. Now there is, a full continuous 24 hours. Seijin wonders if there's a way out before the food runs out. With this kind of food, even the healthy eating group would cry seeing this, and if no one comes to rescue him, he will of course turn into a complete dried-up corpse. And to make it worse, a dried-up corpse with a mouth full of green onion smell. Horrifying just to think about. He snaps out of that dreadful vision, determined not to lie down and wait for death like that. He's made it into the dream tower, can't give up now. Suddenly, Seijin glances at the apple beside him and gets an idea. He finds a soft, damp spot, digs a small hole, puts the apple core in, and covers it with soil. Next, he divides the onion roots and greens in half. These 10 onions can be divided for both food and planting. Making 5 more plots, Seijin fills them with 3 tomatoes and 2 sweet potatoes. Adding a bit of water, he feels confidently alive and full of vitality. The future he's planting with his own hands is right here, not anywhere else. While he's excited, suddenly a loud noise startles Seijin. His brain loads faster than a Formula 1 race car, hearing a terrifying sound like this. Let's not say it's a monster attack. When he looks up at the cave ceiling, he realizes it's a solar eclipse occurring. The screeching sound continues to reverberate in the space, resembling the moans of 2 beasts, singing California Hotel, making his ears almost deaf. Some shadow hovers above, accompanied by flapping sounds. When he looks up again, he notices the silhouette of a dragon flying across the sky. Oh my, isn't that a black dragon? So beautiful, it's breathtakingly stunning. Seijin collapses on the ground, gasping for breath, not knowing how he ended up with a strange piece of root he snapped off earlier under the moonlight. The alarm hauntingly rings, waking Seijin up again. Up still at 6 a.m. in the sunlight-filled cave, he brings his phone closer to see how long he has been unconscious. Oh my, 2 days, unconscious for 2 whole days. Getting up too quickly, his back hurts lying in the same position for 48 hours. A 26-year-old's back now feels like 62's. After sighing, he sits back down and sighs again, feeling tired and hungry, completely drained of energy. But behind him is a huge, blackened tree. Seijin jumps back in shock, realizing it's the onions he planted. How did they grow so quickly, even taller than him? This supersized version only took 2 days to grow while he was unconscious. How absurd. Seijin calmly reconsiders that perhaps it's the soil conditions in the tower make the plants grow differently than outside. He bends down again to find a spot to plant potatoes and tomatoes. He's surprised that in just 2 days they've sprouted, and there are 52 of them, like a small farm. The seedlings are still small, so they enjoy good sunlight, but these onion plants have lost their sunlight due to the shade, so Seijin decides to trim the tops. With their size increased, the onion leaves have become quite tough, and it seems like he's pulling out entire trees rather than just cutting leaves. He harvests a bunch of small leaves, like harvesting rice. Curious about how giant onions taste, he puts one in his mouth and takes a bite. He opens his mouth wide, thinking he's breathing out a pile of fire like a dragon. The taste is like eating level 7 spicy noodles, so Seijin rushes to the nearby pond to scoop water into his mouth. His mouth swells, but his stomach doesn't seem to have any problems digesting it. It seems to be digesting fine, but he eats carefully to avoid swelling his lips. He takes the onion leaves to dry, then returns to the bunch of potatoes and tomatoes he had set aside from the beginning. This morning, there's only a tiny tomato, but Seijin starts to have hope that he won't die of hunger here. Here, there's no night. The sun never sets, with occasional lunar phenomena. It's a planet that looks like the moon, but has a green hue that obscures the light for a period. But Seijin recalls that this only occurs from the 10th floor onward, while he's clearly in the underground parking lot. Yet a gigantic black dragon appears underground, which likely isn't an illusion, because he's longed for the day he could step into the tower. Seijin has researched a lot about the Phoenix Society cleaning the 37th floor. Most awakened individuals are on the lower floors, so this review channel is full of information. All you need is to join the society to access it. From floor 10 down, there are skeleton soldiers. From floors 11 to 20, there are demons, and above that are giant green devils. There's some information about spiders on floor 31, but no one has mentioned dragons yet. Even lizards aren't mentioned anymore, let alone dragons. However, compared to the information he knew, Seijin suddenly felt extremely doubtful about his worldview. After all, he's in a floor that no one has mentioned. His mind races, feeling like he's stumbled upon a floor that no hunter has set foot on yet, feeling incredibly lonely. As he opens his eyes to look at the sky, suddenly some drop fall on his face, making Seijin sit up. He's surprised and can't believe it's rain because the Awakeners have said the weather in the tower is always harmonious. Look, there's someone's figure darting over there. Seijin freaks out, thinking some monsters just dropped by to say hello. Turns out it's something white with fur, shaped like a rabbit. But it's a rabbit with drooling mouth. The drops of water falling on Seijin's face seem to be from it for sure. He's never seen such a cute monster before, so he keeps staring at it until it jumps down. Oh my, this crazy rabbit. Does it want to die in a cave over 10 meters high? It kicks its foot on Seijin's head while he's still bewildered, then flips around and lands like a true ninja. Ignoring the owner of the onion field, the rabbit runs back there, pointing at a tree and squeaking pipey. It doesn't look like a normal rabbit at all, and it's even saying pie. Is it a Pikachu, a white version? Huh, do you want some onion? Seijin steps forward to cut off a piece of the green onion and decisively hands it to the Pikachu-like creature. It takes it eagerly, chewing happily without any sign of spiciness. Feel free to have more, there's plenty of onion, Seijin says. He's getting used to eating the spicy stuff, noticing the onions growing rapidly. At this rate, he could harvest twice a day and still be fine. After finishing the onion leaves, the Pikachu-like creature stands up excitedly, raising its hands. Seijin thought it was full and wanted to exercise, but it turns out it's calling someone from the cave entrance. Another unfamiliar rabbit-like figure jumps down and is promptly greeted by the Pikachu-like creature. It's holding a straw hat and a watering can in its hands. In no time, there are two Pikachu-like creatures dressed like farmers in front of Seijin. He stares blankly for a moment, finding these two rabbits strange. He even realizes they might be a married couple. Pie. Seems about right. They do look affectionate. Hey, don't tell me at this point, but we just realized the main characters of the story aren't the poor lad Seijin, but this rabbit couple. The gentle sunlight filters through the cave entrance, illuminating the fresh onion leaves. A pair of scissors cuts the onions swiftly, and nearby, a watering can sprinkles water on the tiny seedlings on the ground. The one doing those tasks is certainly not Seijin, but the rabbit pair he met yesterday. They happily sing while each doing their own tasks, looking like the hosts here, while the actual host is sitting in a corner, watching the male rabbit sings. Arms holding the freshly cut onion leaves, Seijin begins to feel regret. Was eating onions all day not enough? Now he's forced to watch this romantic movie. But who's to blame now? Blame himself for being naive. Yesterday, the rabbits begged him to stay here with extremely pitiful looks, with sparkling round eyes and adorable pipey cries that could melt anyone's heart. Ordinary people like Seijin can't resist such a full-force attack. That super cute appearance has pierced his heart. All right, I'll stay as long as you want. I really like it here, but I still have to pretend to be cool outside. No work, no food. You can't just sit around and not eat, you know. Seijin demanded that they assist with farm work, even though there wasn't much to do in this cave besides cutting onion leaves. Before he could finish, the two rabbits jumped into his lap, their soft fur constantly rubbing against him, making him almost faint from their cuteness. Now that he's calmed down and thought about it, Seijin suddenly feels like he's being psychologically manipulated. These rabbits are too dangerous. He can only sigh. He's already agreed inadvertently, and now he has to accept it. Suddenly, his eyes catch the farming tools on the rabbits. It seems those items are equipment. The male rabbit's water bottle has an endless supply of water, while the apron the female rabbit wears is like Doraemon's magical pocket, constantly producing necessary farming tools. Even the rabbits are fully equipped from head to toe, yet Seijin has nothing. Does that make him feel jealous or angry? Lost in thought, the male rabbit waves his hand repeatedly, signaling that they've finished their work and want him to check. Aside from the drying onion leaves, everything else remained the same, with no changes to the potatoes. Glancing over at the tomatoes, Seijin was extremely excited to see that the saplings had grown significantly larger. Could it be because of the diligent care from the rabbit couple? While he was busy admiring the plants, the two rabbits watched anxiously, their eyes seeming to ask if that was enough to make them stay. Seijin slowly turned around and then gave a thumbs up. "Come on over, you two." As soon as he said that, the rabbits happily jumped up and then excitedly chattered with each other, leaving Seijin clueless. In less than a second, they transformed forward as fast as lightning, causing the ground dust to roll up into a circle, startling him and making him fall backward. Once he regained his senses, he saw them huddled in a corner. The female rabbit directed the male to dig, and after a while, he dug a hole. The female rabbit happily sang and made a flower wreath, then hung it on a wooden board. A rabbit hole appeared, and the female rabbit proudly pointed to their new home, while the male rabbit looked exhausted from the digging. Seijin couldn't help but marvel at the rabbit's speed, especially the male one, and praised him profusely, making him very pleased. While laughing happily, he suddenly felt a white arm slap him. The female rabbit was blushing and looked embarrassed, Seijin sensing something fishy going on. Indeed, seeing the female rabbit pointing towards the rabbit hole made the male rabbit turn pale, hastily shielding his body, but still being dragged away by his wife. He pleaded for help from Seijin in despair, feeling breathless from the digging and now lacking the strength to come up with excuses for days on end. That the male rabbit's screams vanished behind the door, replaced by the sounds of kisses from the female rabbit. Seijin stood outside, laughing to himself, wishing his friend strength to overcome this ordeal. What a life, indeed, dealing with such unexpected situations. A 26-year-old guy feeling jealous of a male rabbit. Quite a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? However, he quickly regained his optimism and retreated to his own space, respecting the privacy of the rabbit couple. Seijin leaned back on the pile of onion leaves, comforting himself, acknowledging that despite the solitude, having rabbit companions wasn't so bad after all. As he relaxed, black smoke rose from his armpits, wondering if it was due to being dirty for so long that it had reached this level of odor. Feeling too hot, he jumped up like a spring, accompanied by a sharp cry. Seijin rolled on the ground due to the burning sensation on his back. It was only later that he realized the cause was the dried onion leaves catching fire, as the sunlight passed directly through the water bottle aimed at the onion leaves. Watching that scene sparked an idea in his mind. Necessity truly is the mother of invention. Activating his intelligence, Seijin's face looked as guilty as a thief, but in reality, he felt like he was narrating a survival vlog. In this harsh environment, I was fortunate to find onion leaves and a water bottle. Thanks to diligently watching YouTube while outside, he remembered how to use a clear plastic bottle as a lens to focus sunlight and create fire, like those survival vloggers on deserted islands. However, reality and imagination were worlds apart. He arched his back, holding up the water bottle, wanting to drop his arms, but only smoke rose instead of igniting a fire. Disappointed, he slammed his hand on the ground, not knowing where he went wrong. He sighed in frustration. Feeling dejected, he sat on the ground, wondering where he had made a mistake. He sighed heavily, and yet, a small flame flickered in the middle of the onion leaves, astonishing Seijin, though he seemed to understand a little. In the rabbit hole, after a fierce struggle, the male rabbit was exhausted, panting heavily, followed by the female rabbit's satisfied face emerging from the burrow, seeing the boss collapsed in front of them. Thinking the boss was depressed because he was abandoned, the male rabbit was extremely worried, approaching only to find him blowing air into the pile of dried onions. Although it didn't understand what was going on, it immediately offered help, and Seijin happily agreed. With the rabbits taking care of blowing air into the fire, Seijin cheered them on while holding up the water bottle to focus the light. This smooth teamwork finally paid off, and a flame burst forth, success achieved. Seijin cheered joyfully. Now that there was fire, they could cook and boil water like humans again. His eyes glanced over the onions behind, immediately cutting some to test out the fire. Two obedient rabbits sat quietly watching him grill the onions. Is this okay? Seijin lifted the slightly charred onion to check, quickly removing all the burnt parts before eagerly taking a bite. With just one bite, his whole body trembled with excitement, making the rabbits think he was poisoned. Oh my, it's so sweet. Seijin's eyes suddenly lit up, the sweetness like sugar rushing straight to the brain, an explosion of flavor never before experienced, making him feel like a white horse galloping across vast green fields. Chewing eagerly, he continued grilling onions, praising their deliciousness, making the rabbit couple drool. The male rabbit immediately followed suit, grilling onions, alternating between chewing and praising. Both of them hugged each other's cheeks, never having tasted anything so delicious in their lives. Eat some more. Seijin generously told the two rabbits to make themselves at home. There's no meat, but they can eat as many vegetables as they want. Another day spent wandering in the Black Tower, but today his stomach was filled with cooked food, so he could sleep well tonight. The next morning, Seijin lazily stretched and got up, heading to the nearby pond to wash his face as usual. As he was washing his face, he happened to glance over to the side, where the garden that was barren a few days ago was now covered in greenery. The onions had been harvested, the tomatoes had been watered, and even the seemingly withered sweet potatoes had sprouted lush green vines. The rabbit couple did a great job. Seijin was extremely pleased with their diligence, then suddenly remembered last night. After they got the fire, all three of them made torches from onion leaves. The rabbits were in charge of cutting the onions while he tied the leaves together and placed them around the cave. With the light, moving around became easier. Because it was dark by the pond, he also carefully placed a large torch there. Before he could find a place to put the torch, there were small movements under the water. A fish suddenly darted straight at Seijin's face, startling him greatly, but thanks to his quick reflexes, he managed to dodge to the side in time. The fish missed its prey and flopped onto the ground, struggling helplessly, much to Seijin's surprise, because it was the first time he had seen a fish being attracted by light. It was truly magical. The Tower of Magic was indeed different. Everything was surreal. So now, besides having light, he was also supplemented with protein. Seijin quickly grabbed the floundering fish on the ground, wrapped it in onion leaves, and placed it in the fire. Seijin eagerly grilled the fish. It had been a long time since he smelled this rich aroma, making his mouth watered incessantly. When the fish was cooked, he couldn't wait to take a big bite. It wasn't fishy at all. It was incredibly delicious. As he was chewing, he heard disappointed sounds nearby. He turned and saw a pair of white rabbits staring at him, pointing at his mouth, which was salivating profusely. What's this? Do rabbits also like salty food? They nodded in annoyance, and he suddenly remembered that these weren't ordinary rabbits. Life continued to pass by quietly like that, until a few days later Blue Moon appeared again, thanks to which Seijin knew its cycle was 30 days. To keep track of the days, he had used a laptop and a power bank to charge his phone, but they didn't last long either. One setback after another, he resorted to carving symbols on the stone to record the number of days he had been lost here. In the blink of an eye, it had been 61 days living like a primitive man, no electricity, no internet, but he managed to survive. Mostly thanks to the rabbits' routine like clockwork. They always went to sleep at 7 p.m. and woke up at 5 a.m. So he never feared counting the days wrong, and some good news had arrived at the farm a few days ago. Early in the morning, the rabbit husband had just opened the door, and a bunch of golden-furred rabbit babies ran outside. Looking at the mischievously adorable bunch of youngsters, he laughed with tears in his eyes, wanting to hug and cuddle them all, wishing to see them every day. Oh, old man. The 5 rabbit babies immediately hopped over, causing Seijin to fall backward to the ground. But he was extremely happy. The appearances of these fluffy little bundles had made his dull life become more joyful than ever. Suddenly having an additional 5 workers to plant vegetables wasn't too bad, huh? But their 2 elderly parents weren't as thrilled. They were already feeling weary early in the morning. Being a kind uncle, he immediately took on the responsibility of looking after the children, so the rabbits could enjoy their breakfast leisurely. Carrying all 5 round fluffy bundles to the garden to admire the tomato flowers, but none of them wanted to sit still. The group of excited rabbit babies played hide and seek, leaving the uncle sitting there laughing foolishly. Taking advantage of the rabbit babies playing nicely, Seijin used the spare time to pollinate the flowers, using a stick to poke around for a while, making his 26-year-old life want to split in two. Wouldn't it be nice if there were bees here? After sighing deeply and reluctantly bending his back to continue, he was about to resume when he saw a baby rabbit burying its head into a flower. Perhaps seeing the uncle working hard, the baby rabbit wanted to help with pollination using its nose, but ended up getting its nose covered in pollen, sneezing, and falling backward. Seeing this, he burst into laughter, as if he had won a lottery. This scene was worth more than gold. Laughing until his jaw hurt, he finally helped the baby up and scolded it gently, telling it not to do that again, but suddenly his eyes widened with surprise. Fruit. After a grueling period of hard work, the tomato plants had produced their first fruits, bringing joyous singing and dancing to both man and rabbits in the garden. This was just one day before Blue Moon's appearance. Although the sunlight was still streaming into the cave, it was already late afternoon. Seijin hurriedly prepared for the upcoming event. To avoid attracting monsters to the cave, he extinguished the large fire, leaving only a small flame in a crevice between the rocks, and carefully blocked it with a small stone to prevent light from leaking out. He also camouflaged himself with a bunch of rolled-up onion leaves on his head and body. Personally, I think the main character looks no different. The rabbit couple were also coaxing their kids into the cave. Everything was ready. Glancing up at the sky, he guessed it was almost time, so he instructed the rabbit father to close the door carefully. If they survived the night, they would meet again tomorrow. After all, Blue Moon is just a mosquito game, right? Seijin raised his thumb to reassure both the rabbits and himself. Just a few hours later, the warm sunlight disappeared, replaced by the cold blue light of the moon. The blue moon officially began. The rustling of insects and the growling of monsters made him unable to sleep. When will it end? Seijin, exhausted, looked out at the familiar garden. Although he had carefully hidden everything with onion leaves to mask the scent, he still couldn't feel at ease. Every time he heard the chilling howls echoing in the distance, he tensed up, goosebumps covering his body. He prayed earnestly, hoping this time would end peacefully. As he was praying, a loud noise rang out, making Seijin freeze, terrified. As he looked up at the mouth of the cave, outside, a large, chubby red foot was stomping heavily on the ground. A big, fat figure was waddling, causing trees to sway. After a while, it noticed the small mouth of the cave under the bright moonlight, and a giant red bear appeared, towering. It stood right in front of the cave mouth, casting its shadow on the ground. Seijin was speechless, shocked, thinking it's the end for them. Anxiously looking up, he saw the enraged bear, saliva dripping, limbs motionless. Seijin tried to calm down, planning to escape before being noticed, slowly and gently reaching for his backpack. Unfortunately, the backpack was not zipped, so the items inside immediately fell out. The tomatoes and plastic bottle tumbled to the ground. Seijin stood frozen, staring at the scattered items. Sweat continuously poured down, heart pounding, slowly raising his eyes. Wow, surprise, young man. The bear's furry face was right in front of him, causing all the suppressed horror to burst out into immediate screams. Seijin widened his eyes and screamed, causing the bear to quickly growl and spit out foam. This is it, he's done for with this bear. The sun was shining directly on his head, but the old man was still sleeping, drooling. The baby rabbits tried to shake him awake, but to no avail. Oh my goodness, he'll wake up later, Seijin stuttered, intending to push the rabbits away. The rabbit father couldn't let this boss touch even a single hair of his babies. He didn't hesitate to act first, and there was a crisp slap. The rabbit father woke up and slapped him hard, making Seijin's eyes sparkle with pain just from watching it. Oh, Seijin stuttered incoherently as he sat up. Oh my, he thought he had just returned from death's door. The entire rabbit family surrounded him, thinking he was dead. They were moments away from mourning their loss and appointing a new leader. Seijin looked around in a daze, realizing the sky was clear and Blue Moon had ended. He breathed a sigh of relief. The rabbit father let out a sound of agreement, looking very awake compared to Seijin. Why do I always faint during Blue Moon events? He wondered. Every time leaving me with aching body and a fuzzy mind, feeling nauseous. He tried to stimulate every nerve to remember what happened last night. From the moment our eyes met with the bear to its earth-shattering roar, the memory automatically stopped. Recalling that extreme fear still haunted him, almost becoming a midnight snack for the monster. Seeing the uncle trembling in fear, the little rabbits jumped on him for comfort, but somehow he kept shivering uncontrollably. It turns out, fainting in the middle of the dewy night led to catching a cold. The mother rabbit, upon noticing, rushed back to where he hid the fire yesterday, adding more dry onion leaves to make a big fire. Seijin was covered by a blanket of onion leaves, sitting huddled in front of the blazing fire. A while later, the mother rabbit even brought out a fish for him to eat. Feeling exhausted, yet having a hot, steaming piece of fish to eat, with a few cute kids around, all fatigue seemed to vanish. However, Seijin had a new concern, that the monster had discovered their hiding place, unsure if it would return. Yesterday, he narrowly escaped death because the cave was too small for it to enter. But if he encountered a smaller monster, he would have died long ago. Seijin had tried hard to survive until now, with a family and descendants to protect. He couldn't die so easily. Looking down at the fish nibbling away, taking another mouthful, he resolved to eat plenty of food to become stronger. The elders have taught that only with food can one find the way. The stomach must be full first to have the strength to fight. While chewing on the rabbit, Seijin was startled by a sudden shout. He immediately looked in the direction it pointed, and discovered a tomato shining with a sea blue color. Thinking he still had aftershocks from the fainting spell, he hurried back to see that not only was it an unusual color, but it was also as big as a golf ball. Until now, tomatoes were always tiny. This strange-looking one must have come from heaven. Seijin held up the tomato in amazement. It looked uniquely fascinating. He wanted to recite a spell for the tomato to fall down, but before it could fall, Seijin fainted again. As he was marveling at the size of the tomato, a system notification suddenly appeared. Congratulations, he had completed the task of harvesting moon energy-containing fruits. This wasn't a typical notification window. Seijin was stunned, his mouth agape in disbelief. The system sent another message. This remarkable achievement has attracted the attention of the tower management. He thought he might receive a rewarding gift or prize, but the tower management showed displeasure, which bewildered him. What's wrong? Who wouldn't be happy about this? The tower manager explained that he had just discovered that Seijin was an uninvited guest, trying to figure out how to conceal his mistake. Reading the message made him extremely angry, realizing that his presence here was just a misunderstanding. Seijin frantically shook the system board. For the past 61 days, he had struggled to survive in this strange place, and now, they're saying it's just a mistake. Wait until I'm out, then I'll sue them all to the authorities. Maybe they think he's too aggressive and might throw a punch. The system silenced him again, making him feel incredibly uncouth. Suddenly, the message, "The tower manager is awakening you," appeared. Before he could even think whether he was a kitty or a Mickey Mouse, a green light emerged beneath his feet. As he transitioned from dream to reality, he slowly realized he was assigned by the tower manager to play the role of a fully awakened consciousness. Moreover, he was assigned a specific profession by the tower manager. Seijin excitedly hoped for luck to come to him as a wizard. In response to his strong hope, the tower manager assigned him a very relevant profession. He became a tower farmer, ranked F, with a bit of fireworks for extra fun. Too happy, Seijin and the rabbit stood frozen like statues. Is this expression too happy? The tower manager generously offered additional benefits for being a farmer, including robust health, closeness to nature, and points for harvesting crops. Hold on, status window, explain it to me again. Why am I being asked to be a farmer when I'm planting crops? Why, it doesn't know. Because there's no darkness here, so there are no stars. The system always displays Park Seijin Level 1, Tower Farmer Profession. With no skills yet, Seijin felt like his blood pressure was dropping, envisioning a grim scenario. The day he leaves this place and gets invited to a talk show in a fancy suit. The host announces the awakening of the simulated Park Seijun, then respectfully asks what his profession is, to which he replies, "I'm a tower farmer." How humiliating, Seijin shouted in a hoarse voice. Even the chairman of the Farmers Association didn't seem impressed. Clutching the green tomato in his hand, anger surged through Seijin, almost crushing the fruit, until he noticed the rabbit family looking up at him. The whole family looked at Seijin with surprise. He stepped back gasping as he realized he was scaring them. Suddenly, Seijin felt his grip on the tomato weaken. Realizing how hard everyone had worked to grow it, the fire on the pile of dry onions still burning brightly, the onions they planted swayed in the sun. The group had put in a lot of effort to grow this. With a gentle smile, Seijin decided to embrace his role as a farmer. From the surface of the tomato emerged a glowing circle like an electronic device, followed by a sudden appearance of information before Seijin, revealing it to be an E-grade magic tomato infused with Blue Moon's energy, granting 0.05 experience points. Going from one surprise to another, Seijin couldn't believe this seemingly ordinary fruit was actually an item. Although the experience points gained were small, it still brought Seijin a small joy. Seeing Seijin and his farm clearly inside the glass sphere, someone seemed unhappy and grinding their teeth. Seijin, oblivious to all these, was busy holding hands and dancing with the rabbit family. This system is most adept at stirring up trouble when people are happy, suddenly assigning him a task to provide magic tomatoes to the building's management. The reward is the farmer skill. Without completing the task of handing over the tomatoes, death is inevitable. The mission is stated as if it's threatening him. Extremely absurd. Seijin feels a shiver at the word death, calling it a task, but its main function seems to be intimidation, right? If you want something, ask for it politely. Speaking like that won't get you anywhere. Do you see how simple human life is? He shakes his head in frustration with an unaccepting demeanor, but the word death stubbornly remains on the window, eroding his determination. Reluctantly, Seijin bows deeply at a 90-degree angle, offering the tomato because he still very much desires to live. The item disappears from his hand, marking the completion of the mission, and the window switches to receiving a new task. Feeling tense, suddenly becoming simple makes Seijin lose his vigilance. He happily clicks on the receive button, obtaining the farming skill. Albeit a basic one, seed planting level 1, slightly enhancing the germination ability when a seed is sown. He wants to curse so badly, but Seijin's heart has died a little. He's a farmer, not a one-handed farmer, so why give him the seed planting skill? And on top of that, only a slight enhancement. Why not make it stronger for a better gift? Well, he has to accept it as it is. The next day, he harvests green onions again. Seijin holds his onion torch and ventures into the pond in the cave, attracting the crazy fish that leaps up at the sight of light, hitting it with a blow that sends it crashing to the ground. He thought it was a carp or catfish, but it turns out to be a very strange piranha. Since waking up, Seijin can now earn experience points. For each fish caught, he earns 2 points, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and they're the only source of protein in the cave. Now that he's reached level 2, he slows down a bit. The pond isn't that big. If he keeps greedily catching them, these fish will become extinct. He takes the grilled fish. Seijin eagerly calls the kids to come and eat with him. The slightly older bunny kids can already eat a whole fish by themselves, keeping him busy distributing. The rabbit couple quite enjoy this dish. They find the fish delicious. Since becoming a fake awakener, Seijin has seen information online that they're not white Pikachu, just simple white rabbits working as farmers. However, he's been following this channel for a long time and hasn't seen any mention of this monster species. Perhaps because he hasn't registered as a member. Perhaps this species specializes in hardcore farming rather than fighting. So fake awakeners specialize in clearing levels and don't know about them. Unable to communicate with them, Seijin can't ask anything. He thinks the rabbit couple lost their farm for some reason, wandering until they coincidentally found him and their prehistoric cave. After everyone finishes eating, Seijin stands up excitedly, saying today is an important day for the farm, and the rabbit couple immediately respond. The moment everyone has been waiting for, the magical tomatoes ripen and hang thickly on the branches, drawing admiring gazes. After so long of sowing, watering, and caring, it's finally harvest day, and Seijin feels touched. Seijin reaches out his hand, ready to pick them, but as he comes close, he feels his hand trembling uncontrollably. The rabbits watch nervously, and he feels his heart pounding, afraid his fingers might accidentally knock them off. He raises the precious tomato high, and everyone marvels at this ripe, juicy fruit. The information window keeps popping up, announcing a gain of 10 experience points for harvesting ripe tomatoes. It turns out it's not just a plant, it's also an item with its own information. Releasing fat and adding 0.1 experience points for the eater are its greatest benefits. Although it's a small increase, it accumulates. Eating 10 tomatoes would yield a substantial score. Seijin starts thinking about harvesting more tomatoes to accumulate points. The second fruit, then the third, all reported by the system as ripe tomatoes. But by the 7th, it's no longer the case. It's only then that Seijin realizes he needs to pick the exact ripe tomatoes to gain points. Slightly green or slightly ripe won't count. It's tough, isn't it? The rabbits ignore him, happily playing around in the garden, dragging him along. After a while, Seijin manages to harvest quite a few tomatoes, earning enough points to reach level 4. Excitedly, he brings one tomato to his mouth, intending to taste it. Seijin hears some rustling nearby. It's the rabbit husband and the whole rabbit family signaling to him to share the food a bit. He realizes he didn't make the food alone, so he shouldn't eat it alone. Seijin puts on a pleading face and offers it to them, even having to beg them not to be angry anymore, sounding as humble as a master trying to please a pampered cat. Only when each one has a share in their hands does he dare to prepare to eat. The ripe tomato looks quite large compared to the rabbit family, but to Seijin, it's just like tossing a ball into a hoop. Chewing slowly in his mouth for a few seconds, his eyes widen in surprise as he realizes he's lying on lush green grass. A streak of yellow in the wide sky bursts into a blossoming flower, attracting Seijin to sit up and look closely. He feels the fresh taste of the grass in his throat, mingled with sweetness and sourness, like a summer fireworks display. It's an amazing feeling. Suddenly, Seijin's eyes filled with tears of emotion, but in the eyes of the rabbits, he seems foolish. If they could speak, they'd probably ask if this tomato was drugged, since their big brother is eating it and saying it smells like grass. The tomato harvest was so abundant that they couldn't finish eating them all. The rabbit family had to dig another storage pit, accompanied by freshly cut green onions. Each rabbit cub helped their parents, seeming a bit overwhelmed by the size, but Seijin lying there realized they had grown much bigger. The white rabbit's offspring, being farm rabbits, were indeed diligent. Instead of being a lazy bum like him, Seijin was already in bed preparing to sleep by this time. Pulling the dried onion mask over his eyes to block out the light, Seijin fell asleep as soon as he lay down. This system really has issues, only popping up in strange moments. Seijin had no idea. He rolled over and snored, causing the window to grumble and activate the Nokia Remix alarm clock. Nobody but the tower manager jumped up demanding tomatoes. His hand mechanically accepted the reward without any enthusiasm. Indeed, if you don't love, don't sow hope. He harvested so much fruit, and yet only got the harvesting skill. He swallowed back his tears, but the next morning, he realized how useful this skill was. The tomatoes he picked were not ripe enough, but because of this skill, they all turned ripe. It was like having a golden touch for tomato harvesting. From then on, his points soared rapidly, and he didn't even need to wait for the tomatoes to ripe before harvesting them. Just as he was about to rest, the system, on behalf of the tower manager, popped up asking for a ridiculous 200 tomatoes. He knew this day would come sooner or later, and this time, there wasn't even a reward. It was outright robbery. With a reluctant expression, Seijin reluctantly offered dozens of tomatoes to the tower manager, accompanied by a few apologies. But that was just the beginning. Any opportunity the manager got, he demanded more. If there was any slip-up, he'd demand 250 tomatoes, and if fate struck, it would be 300 tomatoes. By the end of the day, the demand was 500 tomatoes, with no room for negotiation. Seeing that number, 500, Seijin felt his temples pulsating, uttering a firm no. The tower manager couldn't believe someone dared to refuse his task. He felt rebelliousness for the first time. If he was going to rebel, he might as well do it in front of the system board. Demanding 500 tomatoes from a garden smaller than a nostril was like demanding the king to bow down to the farmer. If he could argue, so could the system. It told him the tower manager didn't care. The farmer's job was to plant and harvest, so stop complaining and hand over the tomatoes quickly. Seijin smirked, reminding the manager that wasn't his problem, was it? He tightened his grip on the bunch of onions in his hand, his voice trembling, saying these fruits were the result of his hard work. If the manager cared, he wouldn't demand so much. Accusing Seijin of making a mountain out of a molehill officially triggered a rage within him. His face twisted in extreme anger. He refused. Oh my goodness, this guy's in my tower, remember that. Seijin shrugged off the manager's demands, deciding not to comply, and turned to harvest onions with the rabbits. Ignoring the system's repeated reminders, the punishment for refusing tasks was death awaiting him. After grilling fish and sharing tomatoes, the system was ignored several times, getting slammed into Seijin's face, attracting his attention, and in return, the manager's face twisted in extreme anger. The tower manager wondered if a farmer's job was that simple. Why complain? Managers are managers, and farmers like him just follow instructions. Seijin was tired of arguing, his face as dark as the bottom of a pot, muttering that they forced him to do all these without acknowledging his abilities, offering rewards as tiny as grapes, but demanding countless tasks. As he looked up, his eyes welled with tears, his trembling voice criticizing, "What a terrible manager." On the other side of the globe, the manager heard the farmer cursing him, feeling both pain and heartache, gritting his teeth, thinking he was about to get scolded, but instead heard the unexpected. I'm sorry. He didn't even finish his sentence. Seijin was happily eating a tomato, and the manager, with a relieved expression, swallowed the last word, being scolded for not fulfilling his duties. Don't blame the sea for being salty, got it? If you want it fair and square, take these 5 tomatoes, then let's call it a break. No more demands. I won't give in. The rabbits don't even have anything to eat, and they're fighting over it. With the tomatoes disappearing from Seijin's hand, the tower manager accepted them. But he still felt bitter, saying this is the last time he'll let it slide. Got it? After conveying the message, the window disappeared immediately. Seijin smirked faintly. It seems like the tower manager wants to apologize to him. Suddenly, he found the manager quite cute, indeed. On the 91st day since Seijin jumped into the teleportation black hole, he met the blue planet, for the 4th time. The dim light of the eclipse shone down on the crops, while Seijin covered himself with the Union leaf cloak, hugging a pillow against the cave wall. He worried he would have to endure the horrific screeching again, due to not having enough experience points. Despite trying to eat tomatoes to increase his points, Seijin still felt afraid, hoping for time to pass quickly until nightfall. Suddenly, the light from the blue planet shimmered on the leaves. Seijin noticed something strange. The eclipse light, as usual, seemed to penetrate the green tomatoes on the branch, making them still green but with a toxic tint. The whole tree had only one sparkling blue-green fruit. Seijin, though stunned, realized he had to harvest it immediately. But that's not all. He also noticed the light shining on the sweet potato leaves on the ground. It seemed like there was some sort of arrangement. Seijin felt a strange idea in his head, so he stood up cautiously and ran back to the vegetable garden to verify his thoughts. Using his bare hands, he parted the leaves and dug into the soil beneath the sweet potato field until he could see everything underneath. The result was as expected, but Seijin was still pleasantly surprised. The sweet potatoes absorbed energy from the green moonlight, enhancing their delicious flavor and providing a boost to physical strength. This type of tuber ranked E with a storage time of up to 30 days and a slight increase in experience points. By pulling up the sweet potatoes, the system prompted a skill upgrade in harvesting, adding 50 experience points. Then he glanced at the green tomato on the branch, reached down, and felt an unbelievable sensation. With both hands holding 2 green fruits with a toxic tint, Seijin's heart was filled with joy. However, his happiness was short-lived as the secondary task window popped up again. Once again, the tower manager demanded aggressively for both the sweet potatoes and the green tomatoes, threatening consequences if not complied with. This time, he demanded both the sweet potatoes and the green tomatoes, refusing to accept refusal. Each demanding their own, insisting on their own terms. Seijin cleverly presented a basket of freshly harvested red tomatoes to make up for the previous refusal, hoping to avoid further complications. Whether the manager knew how to reject or not, Seijin was determined not to compromise. Seijin stubbornly refused to hand over each item separately. The tower manager, reluctantly, eventually relented, allowing him to enjoy the time harvesting these 2 green fruits. Thinking too much gave Seijin a headache, so he tossed the tomato into his mouth and chewed slowly. His body trembled as if suppressing something, because now his mouth seemed to have dozens of fireworks exploding one after another, easily earning him half a point of experience. Such a small tomato had such effects and flavors that tingled his taste buds. Seijin cleverly wrapped the sweet potatoes in a bundle of onions and threw them into the fire. Even without silver paper, grilling like this was fine. The anticipation of waiting for the food to cook was delightful. The next morning after the blue moon disappeared, the rabbit's shop opened. The whole rabbit family was puzzled to see Seijin already waiting there. Placing the hot sweet potato on a leaf, he held it out to show the whole rabbit family. Even though the leaf wasn't opened yet, they could smell the fragrant aroma emanating from inside, making their mouths water. Suddenly, the rabbit husband jumped out to stop his wife and children, pointing towards Seijin and saying something like, "Pee-pee," which seemed to make the family a bit sad, but they accepted it nonetheless. Seijin realized its intention was to let the human have it to eat because there was only one potato, which touched him deeply. He reached out to pet the rabbit husband's head, deeply moved by its affection towards him. But actually, it was because last night he had secretly eaten one alone. Slowly peeling the purple skin, Seijin brought it to his mouth and took a big bite, then sprayed the whole potato out of his mouth. It was too hot for his tongue. Seijin grabbed his throat and screamed, while the rabbit family only paid attention to the sweet potato he had just spat out. The rabbit husband didn't let it slide. He quickly tried to grab the sweet potato, but 5 other golden hands were faster. Its children each took a piece and stuffed it into their mouths eagerly, ignoring their father's longing gaze. Unexpectedly, as soon as the potato touched their tongues, they couldn't bear the heat and continuously spat it out, lasting about 2 seconds before spitting it onto the ground. Seijin couldn't eat. The baby rabbits cried bitterly with burnt mouths. The rabbit husband didn't get any pieces and was disappointed to the max. So the precious piece of sweet potato suddenly became a discarded item on the ground because it was too hot for anyone to eat casually. The next morning, Seijin announced that from today onwards, he would plant sweet potato sprouts. Right when the baby rabbits were chewing on the sprouts, they looked up at Seijin in confusion, wondering if this human wanted to plant what they were eating. Indeed, he pointed at them, forbidding them from eating sweet potato sprouts from now on. Extremely shocking news. These rabbits, who had become plump from eating sweet potato sprouts, were now forbidden to eat them. They either jumped on Seijin to express their protest, or lay on the ground sulking. Each rabbit had its own way, but overall, they refused. Out of options, Seijin had to bring out something else in exchange, namely super special snacks for the little ones. The baby rabbits had the same temperament as their mother. As soon as they heard about the snacks, they were all in, their mouths watering and their eyes sparkling with cuteness. So it was time to get to work. Seijin ordered each of the rabbit babies to carry a sweet potato sprout to the task. Passing by the mother rabbit cutting onions, Seijin asked her to leave a large onion plant for future harvesting. He was aiming to plant seeds instead of existing plants to see if it would activate any special benefits. On the other side, the baby rabbits, fueled by snacks, worked at full capacity. One dug holes, one carried the sprouts, and another planted them, completing the task efficiently. 5 baby rabbits plus their father helped with watering, and in no time, nearly 10 sprouts were planted, fresh and enticing. Unable to resist, one of the baby rabbits secretly nibbled on a sprout, only to get a swift tap on the head from its father. Seijin's blue tomato garden grew increasingly abundant, with branches heavy with fruit. He harvested hundreds of them, gaining experience points and advancing from a farmer level F to E. Bringing the tomatoes close to the fire, Seijin meticulously prepared snacks for the young farmers on the other side. The tower manager couldn't overlook this. He peeked to see what Seijin was doing, but vanished when Seijin turned back, like spying on someone for mischief rather than curiosity. So Seijin called the kids back from their break, excitedly introducing his exclusive grilled blue tomatoes skewered on piranha bones, exquisitely crafted to make the fruit sweeter and juicier. Each rabbit got a plant. Even their rabbit parents had a share, their eyes gleaming with excitement, eager to eat while still hot. Seijin had to stand up and caution them to blow on it to avoid burning their mouths. With a skewer in hand, observing the successfully grown potato sprouts, he used one hand to dig the ground, pulling out a mature plant, yielding a bunch of swinging potatoes. These were grade E potatoes, enhancing stamina slightly and aiding in fat reduction. Each plant yielded him 5 potatoes, totaling 15 of higher quality than the first harvest. Spotting a forgotten sprout on the ground, Seijin quickly replanted it, wasting no plant. After tending to the soil, the system prompted successful seeding, meaning Seijin needed to plant all by himself to upgrade his skill points. He raised his hand to signal the little ones to stop, aiming to earn a few points on his own. In the tower's library, a bulky figure nestled among stacks of books, leaning towards the firelight. Someone's black sharp-nailed hand held a skewer, with 20 blue tomatoes, roasting them over the blazing fire before devouring nearly all of them in one go. The mouth seemed to relish the taste, but immediately spat them out due to their bitterness. The black dragon's tail twisted uncomfortably, only realizing later that the bitterness was from the burnt outer skin with a bit of sweetness inside. It went back to its sphere to see what the farmer was up to, realizing Seijin wasn't diligently working but lounging with the rabbit children, eating potatoes. No, it couldn't be. How could they eat potatoes without me? Alien Furtani, the mighty black dragon. Oh my, not naming names, but I thought it was Fang's son from that dragon training secret. thought he wouldn't wander the streets anymore. Yet here he is managing this tower, specializing in shaking down vegetables and fruits from Seijin and his little ones. It's quite bitter not being invited to dine together. Suddenly, a supplementary system window pops up out of nowhere. The task is to bring a baked potato to the tower manager, with no reward, but refusal means death. Suddenly, the potato he's chewing tastes much worse. Seijin decides to butter up the manager. Why not say so from the start? Now there's a potato threatening what? Or else, offer the reward. Seijin will reconsider. A few seconds later, a window pops up, activating an A-rank mission, still about offering a baked potato, with a bonus related to the profession. Saying so. Isn't it cute? Just give it already. Seijin raises his hand to select and open the mission reward, receiving a level 1 seed shop, allowing 1 purchase per 30 days. He jumps up in joy, now realizing it's somewhat similar to the shop on the first floor that the Awakeners often mention. Seijin activates the shop skill immediately, kicking off the empty history. Suddenly, remembering that buying requires money, he, like a genuine farmer, wonders if he can exchange vegetables for it. The system knows that no matter how hard the farmer tries, Seijin is still poor, so it gives him a tower coin for free, as if his eyes were selling him out. Seijin is extremely surprised. The shop system is unusually generous today. In the real world, a tower coin is worth 1 million. The system informs that there are 3 random seed types available each day. At Seijin's current level, he can buy 1 type to plant. The catch is, even though there's only 1 type, there are 1,000 seeds, sounding grand but quite pricey in market terms. He pondered for a while and decided to eliminate 2 options, red chili and cabbage, as they weren't very stable. So the remaining one is carrot seeds, right? Rabbit family immediately turns their heads to look at Seijin upon hearing the words carrot seeds. He realizes they are trying to tell him something. So he repeats and finally understands it's about carrot seeds. The eyes of the rabbit couple sparkle with excitement. He leans closer, emphasizing the keyword carrot, and the rabbit family nods eagerly. The more he mentions it, the more enthusiastic their response. Talking too much annoys the rabbits. One of them jumps up and kicks him in the face to shut him up. Seijin follows their preference and buys 1,000 carrot seeds. Unlocking the achievement of purchasing earns him 1 loyalty point. Every 100 accumulated points allow him to level up once. The seeds are packed in a fancy red bag, landing in Seijin's hands amidst the admiration of the entire rabbit family. Many unexpected events happen to the tower manager, claiming the transactions with the store are going well, probably anticipating new items for exploitation. Anyway, with 1,000 seeds, Seijin and the rabbit family start planting right away. Above the cave entrance where the grass grows thick, a brown bee is flying somewhere. But seeing the spirited crowd, she stops to see if anyone deserves a sting. Look at those cute little bunny butts shaking, gazing happily at the carrot seeds just planted and covered with soil. They're chattering away, making Seijin feel a bit odd. Even though the seeds have been planted for a few days, nothing has sprouted yet. And they keep lying there. Are they obsessed with carrots? Anyway, his part is done. Now it's time to rest. Wake up in the afternoon to pollinate the flowers and trim the onions. Suddenly, Seijin hears a buzzing sound in his ear. He waves his hand to shoo it away, but it keeps buzzing by his ear. Darn it, so annoying. Why is there suddenly an insect here disturbing his sleep? In front of him is a large brown bee, staring intently with its 2 big eyes. The baby rabbit sitting on Seijin's lap also looks up to see the creature from another species making its buzzing sound. He hesitates before this winged creature. How come all the tower monsters are so cute? Seijin decides to take a closer look at the bee, but the system promptly pops up a notification that this is a venomous bee. Oh my, why didn't you say so from the beginning? A venomous bee? Seijin quickly closes his palms. He sends out an SOS signal, intending to ask the baby rabbits what this creature is and if it's dangerous. He notices their parents carrying 5 baby bunnies and running away long ago. Gosh, those miserable rabbit parents. How dare they leave him alone to become prey for a meat-eating bee, to prove that his fear is not exaggerated. The tower manager informs him that this is a venomous bee specializing in stinging and eating its prey. How can a meat-eating bee have such a misleading appearance? Seijin feels his heart just dropped, waving his hands continuously to shoo the bee away. But it keeps getting closer. In his eyes, this bee is no different from a murderer, ready to devour him. His legs go weak, collapsing onto the ground, arms flailing. hitting whatever is nearby towards the bee. Not sure if he wants to kill it or sacrifice it for himself. But when he sees tomato branches full of yellow flowers, the brown bee stops and stares at them intently, shifting its focus to the flowers, no longer caring about the timid farmer. A moment later, Seijin dares to open his eyes to take a look. He finds the brown bee sticking its head into the flowers with delight. When it lifts its head, it looks like it just had a satisfying meal, appearing innocent and harmless. Seijin glances at the system window with no trust, asking again if the meat-eating animal is ferocious. It keeps silent without daring to explain. Suddenly remembering that bees can pollinate flowers, Seijin leans closer to the brown bee and whispers, "We have a whole field of tomato flowers. If you like, dive in and enjoy." Turns out this bee is picky. Despite the abundance of tomato flowers, it keeps buzzing around Seijin, only becoming interested when invited to indulge. So in a stroke of luck, Seijin loses his pollinator, having to manually pollinate using a poking stick. Now that he has time, Seijin turns around to scold his timid rabbit family, who left him alone, and now come back to snoop around without a clue. They fidget and act all lovey-dovey, especially this timid rabbit husband, looking so pitiful. The brown bee seems to have finished feasting on the flower nectar, flying over to Seijin, who is still quite startled, gradually backing away, afraid it might change its mind and attack him. Unexpectedly, the brown bee lands on Seijin's yellow-stained white shirt, stretching its chubby body and taking a nap on his stomach. Indeed, chubby ones often feel sleepy. Well, that's fine. As long as it doesn't turn around and sting him, it's okay. Time goes by, Seijin's tomato field grows steadily, and there are already 120 tally marks on the cave wall. Seijin happily tends to his garden with the rabbit family every day, cutting fresh leaves. He works diligently while the rabbit children frolic around, which is exactly how children should play. Seijin now resembles an old man watching children play in the yard. The bee, as usual, perches on him after finishing its nectar feast. It has been visiting Seijin's prehistoric cave for weeks, coming in the morning to work and flying into the forest at night. Seijin's farm is expanding, providing enough land for everyone to live in harmony. Perhaps this brown bee no longer spends time with its own colony and prefers to stay here. Seijin likes it too, especially when it releases honey like this, creating a super delicious and enjoyable honey-dipped onion dish. His rabbit family really enjoys it. Who knows if tomorrow, dipping carrots in honey will become their new favorite. Seijin chews on a stalk of honey-dipped onion while thinking happily. At first, he was afraid of being attacked by this bee, but thanks to it, his garden has expanded, and he even harvests honey. The status window pops up just as he is eagerly awaiting to bathe in honey. But when Seijin turns back, it disappears instantly. He doesn't pay much attention, as he's used to the fleeting nature of the tower manager. Seijin shifts his attention to his wall calendar. The blue moon is coming soon. Thinking back to the day the bear came to say hello, he still feels a bit scared. Seijin just hopes to survive through this lunar eclipse. On the 121st day before the blue planet appears, Seijin gathers ripe tomatoes into a bag, along with his travel gear, prepared like a guerrilla fighter, ready for the eclipse. The rabbit family on the other side is bustling strangely, each seeming more worried than before. Seijin stands up with a basket of ripe tomatoes, intending to lure them back into the house, only to see the entire rabbit family embracing each other tenderly. What's going on? Getting ready to send their kids off to study abroad, Seijin is bewildered. Before he can grasp anything, he sees the rabbit couple leaving their 5 golden-haired children behind. They rushed back to their house, ignoring the stuttering farmer's words. As they reached the door, the rabbit couple turned back, waving goodbye, then closed the door firmly, locking it for safety. "Oh my, what's happening? Why did you leave your children here like this? The solar eclipse is approaching." Seijin barely finished speaking when the blue planet appeared, obscuring the sunlight, casting a faint blue light over him. Suddenly feeling a chill run down his spine, Seijin turned around to see the golden-haired rabbit children now resembling muscular thugs. Their eyes turned red, their mouths filled with sharp teeth, and their bodies grew larger, emitting growling sounds, thirsting for blood. Is there still time to send an SOS signal? Seijin felt his scalp tingle. The adorable golden-haired rabbit children were forgotten. Just as Seijin was about to flee for his life, the rabbits suddenly began to glow like toys. Amidst the dazzling light, their fur turned pure white, thicker and fluffier, and all their muscular features disappeared. "Wow, surprised yet?" The 5 rabbit siblings appeared in their new forms, all resembling white Tangela Pikachu, except for one black rabbit that's a taunt Seijin called the ink rabbit. Perhaps it's from the neighbor's house. Needless to say, Seijin was speechless with amazement. So this is a sign of maturity, a change in fur color. They gathered under Seijin's feet, chirping cutely to show off. Since they were born until this blue moon, it's the 5th time already, isn't it? Seijin curiously approached to get a closer look at them. Suddenly, he burst into tears, thinking something had happened to them earlier. The rabbits looked at him blankly. Oh, this big brother is not only cowardly, but also emotional. The black rabbit beside him tried to comfort him, but ended up being hugged and kissed on the cheek by Seijin. They look so cute, I want to kiss them too. As the crescent moon just moved away from the sun, the rabbit couple stepped out of the door with excitement, seeing Seijin and their children sitting by the fire. The whole family hugged each other happily. It seems that the rabbit parents already knew about this. Only Seijin was fooled. Suddenly, one of the baby rabbits raised its hand in the air. The one that resembled Pikachu the most in the litter. Out of nowhere, it made a Doraemon sound, digging the ground with a shovel. Seijin couldn't believe his eyes. Each of them had a rabbit information board in their hands, along with their own farming tools. It turns out that these rabbits all have the ability to summon items when they mature. Even Seijin can't borrow and use them temporarily. And what about this neighbor's rabbit? The ink rabbit seemed to be waiting for Seijin to ask, proudly showing off something bright, a hammer-shaped item. Indeed, a huge hammer. Seijin didn't understand why this ink rabbit offered a hammer. Is it for building something? It carried the hammer on its shoulder, proudly showing that it had grown up. Suddenly, Seijin leaned down to closely examine the information board of the ink rabbit. Unlike the others, it said it was a black warrior rabbit. So it's the neighbor's rabbit. Parents are farmers, siblings are farmers, and each of them has a different fur color and specializes in combat. A few days later, everything went as usual. The baby rabbits had enough farming tools to work just like their parents, looking very professional. The chubby rabbits were busy pushing baskets of tomatoes for Seijin to sort and store. Seijin felt himself getting older day by day. Just the other day, they were still noisy kids in the garden. Now each of them has grown up. It's quite touching. But the siblings worked diligently. He looked back at the ink rabbit lying on the ground. Although it's confirmed that this is a warrior rabbit, it still seems idle. To be honest, there's nothing here for a warrior rabbit to fight, nor any structures to build. While thinking about finding a job for the ink, it suddenly perked up its ears, then picked up the hammer and beckoned Seijin to follow it to the water pond in the cave. He immediately realized that hunting could also be a form of teamwork. With a newly lit torch in hand, a fierce piranha fish lunged at Ink to test its new hammer. Displaying its warrior spirit, Ink swung the hammer straight at the fish, sending it crashing into the cave wall like a bomb. Ink landed a majestic blow like a true warrior, while Seijin grimaced at the squashed fish, sliding down. The black rabbit didn't know what to do, quickly turned back to give a thumbs up to its human brother, but Seijin was unsure whether to praise or criticize. That evening, minced fish was served amidst the solemn atmosphere of the whole family. Ink noticed the siblings' mocking attitude, so it deflated all its joy, and Seijin had to console it with a few words. Since then, the baby rabbits began to be more familiar with their tasks, and Ink's fishing skills improved significantly. From the 125th day onwards, the seed shop reopened for a new round of purchases, still allowing Seijin to choose one type as usual. There were still 3 options, but the quantity had clearly decreased. 10 watermelon seeds for 5 tower coins, 50 pumpkin seeds for 1 coin, or 200 corn seeds for half a coin. No more discounted 1,000 seeds. Seijin was surprised to see such rare seeds being sold this month, partly because he now only had 0.9 tower coins, and there was no choice other than corn seeds, a worry creeping into his mind. It's been over 4 months here without any way to make money. Other awakened players make money by fighting monsters and clearing chaos on the tower floors. Even though they have to split the rewards among their team, they still earn more than Seijin. The second way is to hunt monsters and sell their bodies to merchants on the first floor. The third way to make money is to complete missions and receive rewards. But his tower management system is behaving contrary to what he was told. There are no rewards, but demands for various things, threatening to kill if not provided. But Seijin still raised his head and asked if there were any tasks with tower coins as rewards. The window appeared quickly, saying something about tower coins, not understanding, and that the tower management will automatically provide when the time comes. Seijin furrowed his brow. He's already 26 years old and still not considered an adult. How old is the tower manager then? Of course, the Black Dragon didn't disclose its age, only saying that Seijin would receive money when he turned 300. Seijin got irritated. He's a sweaty human, not some monster that lives to that age. And if the tower manager gives money after another 274 years, who will use it then? His distant descendants. Who would he even breed with, after spending all these days surrounded by vegetables and rabbits? Seeing he made a valid point, unable to argue back, the system quickly switched to playing cards. Seijin grudgingly accepted. The tower manager's personality has always been like this, so he returned to selecting seeds. Listening with awe, Seijin could only choose corn seeds, and try to envision himself boiling and grilling them, and making bread flour, blah blah. After the system congratulated and wished them various kinds of luck, it handed him a red pouch, pouring out exactly 200 seeds without any extras or shortages. But they seemed to be of good quality, so they first cheered each other up to work. The rabbits were very excited about the new food, and in their eyes, Seijin was the expert in providing various kinds of food. Before eating, his stomach was rumbling with hunger and anticipation. Admiring Seijin's resilience, he had been eating only those vegetables and fish for 125 days. If it were me, I'd be crying for days and nights craving hamburgers, pizza, and bubble tea. With new recruits specializing in fishing, Seijin and the rabbit family enjoyed a satisfying meal, sitting around the fire. A honeybee flew in from somewhere to say hi. There have been more and more of them in the cave lately, less time in the woods, but Seijin didn't care much. With them buzzing around his face, he was happy. Suddenly, the two bee antennae pointed in one direction. They flew up into the cave mouth without saying a word. The ink also became wary, grabbing its warrior hammer just in time for Seijin to notice something new leaping out of the cave mouth. Its two hands looked like those of a stretching cat. Its voice sounded awkward, hoping everyone wouldn't misunderstand. I'm not a shameless cat thief here to steal food. The rabbits and the honeybee looked very alert, and Seijin also startled, asking what it was doing there. He was so tense that he forgot this cat could talk instead of meowing. Instead of answering, it jumped back into the cave, somersaulting magnificently to the ground right in front, then extending a hand with pink pads forward to greet Seijin very professionally. You're customer Park Seijin, right? Its appearance resembled a cat doing tricks, but walking on the ground, and the important thing to mention, 7 times 7, 49 times, it's an orange cat. A merchant? Seijin doubted, looking at the cat in front of him. The word on the street was that awakened ones climbing the tower would meet merchants. But no story mentioned that cats could do this job too. Moreover, look at those round eyes, add to that the pair of soft chubby cheeks, and especially those little pink paws. Oh my god, how can one resist such cuteness? His heart throbbed wildly. It seemed Seijin was about to faint, but he was still alert enough to speculate that this chubby furball was definitely a scammer. Despite this flirty introduction, Seijin maintained an indifferent demeanor. With a very professional bow, it said, I heard a newcomer has traded with the seed shop, Mr. Seijin. Its flattery made him want to maintain his coolness, pretending not to care. So you're here to say hello and offer some lucrative deals. As Theo spoke, he rummaged through his pouch, boasting about having many good items, making Seijin interested to see. Before even seeing the items, Seijin heard the loud rumble of the cat's hungry belly. He was done for. Where's the image of a cool merchant in front of a customer? Theo scratched his head and ears, hastily apologizing to Seijin, then explaining that it hadn't eaten anything all day, hence the condition. Seijin was amazed at the pitiful cat laughing. Suddenly he cracked a smile that stretched to his ears, looking absurdly cute. You're Theo, right? The merchant cat felt shy and glanced over, locking eyes with a whole grilled fish along with the smiling face of the customer. The delicious smell and the golden brown skin made Theo excited, claws twitching, drool continuously flowing. But just a few seconds later, it hastily wiped its mouth, addicted but still hesitant, so it said it couldn't eat the customer's food. Don't you want to eat for real? Seijin approached Theo and pushed the fish into its face. The sweet and tempting fish meat was both tender and fatty. If you don't eat this, it would be a waste of a lifetime for a cat. Oh my god, this amazing taste lingers, making saliva drip uncontrollably. Then suddenly, there was a meow and the sound of chewing. It was beyond satisfying. With a bone in its paw, Theo lay on its back licking its lips. Seijin sat beside it saying, it must have been really hungry. Because that cat had just swallowed 5 grilled fish, it was a glutton, not a cat. Theo quickly got up, bowed his head in thanks, not knowing how to repay such a generous god, but Seijin just smiled and said there was no need. Truly a kind and lovely person. Theo happily rummaged through his pouch, wanting to sell more items to make some extra money from him. This trip would be profitable, ha ha ha, not just 5 tower coins. Seijin excitedly stretched out his hands, asking for money for a few grilled fish. Theo angrily bristled all over and shouted back, it's not free, there's nothing free in this world. Seijin retorted cheerfully, then switched to a threatening tone, asking if Theo planned to eat and run. Why not take a look around? Theo worriedly glanced around, seeing a whole gang of rabbit thugs punching and kicking. And there's also a black rabbit wielding a hammer. Fuming, it paid the ransom. Then it collapsed on the spot, while Seijin and his gang were ecstatic about easily scamming the foolish cat for money. On the other side, Theo silently screamed in his heart, damn it, he lost all his money before even making a sale. Losing money without even doing business. Can't let life trample on me like this. It quickly pulled out its bag in front of Seijin, eagerly saying, come take a look. Theo pulled out a purple cloth, enthusiastically displaying 3 items and boasting that they were very popular on other floors. A cup of water, a mini fan, and a handheld hot pack, all for 5 coins. These are items from outside the tower, right? Seijin and the rabbit gang stared intently at the merchandise, making Theo feel very pleased and proud. Then, holding up the cup, it introduced, this here has a magic spell for preservation. Just put something hot or cold in here, and it can maintain the temperature. Next is the mini fan with a wind magic. When you need it, just press the switch like this. Seijin stared wide-eyed at Theo, who was enthusiastically pitching, thinking this cat must be out of its mind, so he couldn't help but interrupt the foolish cat. Boldly pointing at its merchandise, he said bluntly, these items are all junk. What are you saying? Theo straightened up. Damn, this guy dared to call its goods junk. It shows he's just a commoner who can't recognize the true value of these items. Seijin remained calm, pointing to himself. I'm from outside the tower, cat. What the fuck? Theo felt like it got struck by lightning. Its ears drooped in shock as it looked at him. Seijin had to explain to the poor cat, this cup is just a thermos, by sealing the lid tightly to prevent outside germs. And the mini fan and heating bag only have limited use. They turn off after a few hours. Those words felt like a stab to the weak cat's heart. It crouched down in agony. Clearly it was told they had magic. Just then, the mini fan's wings were shaking, proving Seijin's words were right. Theo frustratedly kicked the fan repeatedly with its foot, shouting in a strained voice, move, please. Seijin added fuel to the fire, saying that Skuram was a scammer, tricking the cat like that. Realizing the bitter truth, the cat collapsed to the ground, saying, Theo had given Skuram its heart, how could it fall for such a scam? Skuram truly was a wicked trickster, combining being poor and unlucky with this bonus scam. Theo cried like rain, pounding its hands on the ground. Seijin kept marveling at its cute cat-like voice, cursing without any malice, just finding it adorable. The innate performer emerged strongly within Seijin, gently comforting Theo and asking it to tell the whole story. Theo tried to hold back its tears, its voice trembling. It said it came from floor 75, a neutral area of the tower. One fine day, the village cats cheered Theo on to confess its love. It listened to its friends, holding a bunch of fish, to propose to the cat it secretly liked for so long. Merle was a proud, pure white cat, as elegant as it gets. As soon as it saw the fish, it quickly backed away. The mistress of Golden Jade didn't bother with such cheap stuff, only fancy pate. Merle immediately clawed and shredded Theo's gift. The cheap fish smell made it nauseous. What are you doing? Theo couldn't believe the gentle girl it always dreamed of could act so distant and mighty, but for love, it just dove in, not caring anymore. You should know your place. As Theo was desperately begging Marl, a mocking voice rang out. It was Oren, the son of the richest cat in the village. He swaggered in a suit with a fancy tied salmon, making all the female cats swoon. A lady like Merle deserved expensive things. Then Oren brought the fish to Merle, making the other female cats swoon. Theo, from afar, angrily tried to belittle him. She only likes pate, you idiot. Wow, isn't she beautiful? Totally different from what the simp lord said. Marl's eyes were shining with desire as she looked at the salmon, shattering Theo's dreams. In pain, chasing after the crush happily in the arms of another, Theo ran up, grabbed Marl's hand, turning into an Indian soap opera soaked with tears. The poor cat. Theo interrogated the girl. Are our memories together meaningless? Seeing his lover walk with the rich Oren, he hallucinated that everything was fake. Theo looked at the tearful Marl with sadness. Would she dare to swear on those tears? Just days ago we were frolicking in the sunny meadows, arguing for no reason. You used to slap me playfully. Oh, those days. Are you high or something? Marl squinted threateningly. Theo's nonsense story drove her mad. I've only laughed with you a few times, and you're delusional. There was never any frolicking in the sun-drenched meadows between us. There were only days of storms, thunder, and lightning. Theo clinging on, getting scolded by Marl. I don't hate eating fish. Marl heatedly pointed her claws straight at the simp lord. I just hate eating the cheap fish of a poor, ragged guy like you. Theo was shocked to the core, every word tearing his heart apart. His tears fell. The game was over. From now on the world lost a cat. Then those two cats walked away. Theo immediately packed up his belongings, hugged his dreams of becoming a wealthy trader to return for revenge. But life wasn't like a dream. That's why I'm suffering like this now. Seijin and the rabbits listened to the cat's lamentations and felt depressed, sweat pouring out continuously. Theo's life story wasn't over yet. It used 50 silver coins to buy a business license and the necessary equipment to become a trader. With the remaining 5 coins, Theo planned to buy some items to sell for profit. That's when it met Scarum. At that time, the cat was waiting at the counter when approached by a green fairy, who introduced himself as Scarum and claimed to know a lot. So they both went to a beer hall with some sexy rabbits serving, looking very different from Seijin's rabbits. There, the mysterious Scarum said he had many items outside the tower, and if Theo sold them to people on higher floors, he would make a lot of money. You wondered why Scarum was so good. He immediately adopted a sweet tone, saying it's because he values you, considering this as an investment in a new trader. He pretended to be angry when he saw Theo hesitate, saying, if you don't like it, he can give it to someone else. Theo fell into the trap, not wanting to miss out on good merchandises, so he stopped him and was given a map showing the location of new customers of the seed shop, pushing the paper toward the cat while encouraging him that he could make a lot of money with this item. Because he provided a lot of confidential information, he asked Theo to pay for the beer, and the cat eagerly agreed. Having spent all the money on Scarum, he didn't have money to buy food. That's why he came here with a hungry stomach. Theo crouched, trembling, narrating, then lay down on the ground, begging because Seijin stole the last few coins, crying because he felt useless, robbed by this human. This cat is both easygoing and foolish, so Scarum clearly cheated and fooled him. Seijin also felt sorry but didn't care. But wait, I have an idea. His face suddenly showed an indescribable expression. His dark mind came up with a way to make money. First, he had to stop the cat from crying, eat a few more grilled fish. Theo. Seijin chuckled. The cat refused immediately. Are you planning to trick me? You don't have any money left already. Who would want to cheat you? I'll give you free food. Hearing this, Theo's eyes widened suspiciously, looking at the scammer. Seijin eagerly suggested the cat work for him, pretending to be friendly, while secretly wanting to catch the cat without using a knife. On the next day at the tower, Seijin found a colleague. Do you want us to work together? Theo was surprised. This move was too strange. He couldn't anticipate it. Seijin explained that he needed a good trader to sell items, but the cat thought he was a pathetic failure. After the recent story, he still wanted to hire me. Feeling embarrassed, the cat continued to feel down. I'm just a useless and obscure chicken trader. Not wanting to lose potential labor, Seijin immediately boosted the cat's morale by praising him and expressing his confidence in Theo. Moreover, your unfortunate life has touched my heart, so we can become business partners. Surely he thinks a cat can understand that phrase, right? To show his sincerity, Seijin enthusiastically called some bunnies for Theo to broaden his horizons. Just a moment later, the leafy resort by the lake with a garden style was completed. Seijin comfortably lay on the water-absorbing chair, with a bunny standing by to fan cool air. Theo, not used to such luxury, found it strange. At this point, Seijin turned to business matters. First, by reminding Theo of the bunch of items the cat brought were counterfeit, making the foolish cat reluctant to speak, just wanting to get it over with. This is the right time to propose a deal. Seijin suggests Theo take the items from him to sell, then he'll give you a 3 to 5% commission from the sales revenue. Damn, does this guy only speak gibberish? What does he expect from a cat that just knows how to lick his butt all day? Seeing the cat looking confused, he cheerfully said, "You can sell the items for a higher price than I set." Seijun is quite sure the cat is capable of that. The higher the price you sell, the more commission you'll get. The big uncle on the side is discussing business vigorously, while these two bunny kids are busy grilling fish. Back to Theo, who is pondering, what kind of commission is that? Too little. Does that guy think I'm easy to fool? Seijun can tell what the cat is thinking. It's time to reveal the ace. He waves his hand to summon the bunnies over. Theo sees the plate of fish in their hands, nearly drooling. Our agreement doesn't stop there. I'll also give you an extra 10 fish, Seijun said excitedly, pointing to the grilled fish on the bunny's hands. Astonishing Theo. Seeing the bunnies lay the fish on the table, he eagerly sits beside them, even if it's fish. Ugh, Theo swallows saliva with a gulp. So, are you ready to sign the contract with me now? Seijun casually asks. The plan has been successful so far. Just waiting for one more nod from the cat. Meanwhile, Theo is struggling internally fiercely. Haven't the previous tricks been enough? He is a smart cat. Don't trust anyone. Theo shakes his head hesitantly, but the enticing aroma nearby keeps coming, making him unable to resist drooling. Quietly wiping his mouth and regaining a bit of dignity, Theo demanded 20 more fish before considering the proposal. Just as he got that, Seijun's smile lost all humanity, again fooling a fool to sell himself to capitalism. What, 20 fish? I'll give you 25 fish, he said as he lifted a bunch of fish onto the table, making Theo's eyes widen in amazement. Oh my god, a total of 25 fish, and your remaining trace of dignity vanished. Theo's ears perked up, eagerly eyeing the food in front of him. Of course, Seijun firmly confirmed, adding, you can eat as much as you want when you come here to get the goods. Really? Really? The cat's mouth, legs, and tail were all trembling. This salary couldn't be more perfect. Seeing the big fish about to bite, Seijun glared, emphasizing the 5 words, as much as you want, straight into the cat's naive ears. Theo's eyes lit up, his front legs had to be raised to support his face from falling off. That's it. Prepare for a foolish cat being lured into slavery on the farm. I feel sorry, but oh well, who cares? The prey has been trapped. Seijun immediately tells his buddies to sign the contract. Theo eagerly raises his paw in agreement. Seizing the opportunity, Seijun quickly takes out pen and paper, scribbling a few basic lines, finally sealing it with his and the cat's fingerprint. Happy cooperation. Seijun happily pats the cat's shoulder as he happily sniffs around, but less than a second later, a loud scream echoed. Damn it. Theo was so excited that he signed the contract unconsciously. He didn't even bother to read what was written in it before slapping his paw on it. It's gone. But now the contract has flown away with Theo's meow meow cry. Regret is useless now, darling. The contract has been sent to the system and appears in front of the two with the title, Lifetime Distribution Contract. Just hearing the name makes me uneasy. Basically, the contract mentions the mutual benefits of cooperation between Seijun and Theo, especially that the cat will be exploited for labor for life. The salary is as Seijun mentioned, but there are some special clauses. First, if Theo can't sell more than 5 units per month, the contract will be automatically terminated. Second, the selling price of agricultural products must always be equal to or higher than the price he specifies. Thirdly, Theo is not allowed to create any additional supplementary clauses on his own. Fourthly, Theo should use a cat's voice to communicate with customers, strictly prohibited from punching customers in any situation. At the bottom are prominent paw prints like this. There's no escape route left. Looking at the basically slave contract, Theo froze. In contrast, Seijun was extremely pleased. Isn't this an irreversible contract? Indeed, it blocks all possible escape roads for the cat. Theo slumped to the ground. Why did he sign the first contract with this Loki-like guy? Not to mention the 4th special clause, using a cat's voice to greet customers. I'm super embarrassed about that watery voice. Theo angrily thumped his tail on the ground, glaring at Seijun, burning with embarrassment. But he ignored it, just reaching out to shake hands with his partner, starting work automatically. What's the problem? Angrily brushing off the human's hand, Theo's ears flattened in anger because it still risked being fired. As the first clause stated, if it didn't perform well, he could be kicked out without any compensation. Seijin trusts Theo. Sooner or later, he will become a bestseller. Smart cat. Then he pets the cat's head a few times. Hearing that, Theo felt ecstatic, suddenly seeing his handsome boss as 1,000 times more attractive. Theo's satisfied expression also made him happy. Winning over this cat is too easy. But what exactly does he intend to sell? After signing the contract, he doesn't bother to mention what goods he's going to sell at all. Haven't even started, and it already feels off. Tomatoes. Seijin's response startled Theo awake. This boss is a bit funny. People sell all sorts of cool stuff, and suddenly he wants to sell rainbow tomatoes. Sounds ridiculous. Seijin pays no attention to Theo's suspicious look. He picks a ripe tomato from the vine and hands it to the cat for inspection. Seeing that its quality isn't too bad, he asks the boss what price he wants to sell it for. In Theo's head, he secretly estimates he could make about 0.01 tower coin by scamming some newly awakened folks in the tower, but the price Seijin offers is 0.05 coin. Theo is stunned by Seijin's answer. This guy is increasing the price by 5 times than his estimate. Only crazy people would buy this stuff. Thinking it over, Theo realizes this is also a good thing. At that sky-high price, he won't be able to sell the goods, and it's easy to escape from that devilish contract in just 1 month, but still get to eat grilled fish. Too good. So how many tomatoes does the boss want me to sell? 1,000, okay? Seijin barely finishes speaking when the rabbits quickly bring out a basket full of tomatoes and a pile of grilled fish wrapped in onions. The efficiency of the rabbits' work surprises Theo greatly. Seijin is so used to it that he only cares about how the cat is going to carry this pile. Theo immediately pulls out the magic wrap. This has preservation, space expanding, and weight reducing spells. Food stored in here will remain in its original state for a long time. Let me demonstrate for you. Tossing the cloth towards the piled up food, it immediately opens a powerful spatial door, sucking all the food inside. But I have a question. If it sucks everything up like that, what's the point of arranging it in the first place? After sucking all the items inside, the wrapped cloth falls to the ground in the form of a backpack with drawstrings, opening the eyes of Seijin and the rabbit team wide. Would it be better to stuff a little more? Cheerfully putting on the backpack, Theo bids farewell to everyone. I'll be back early after a few days. Saying so, it jumps into the mouth of the cave, waving goodbye to the community below. Specifically, the cheating boss, the rabbit gang, and a big bee like holding hands.
Well, that's the story of this video. Thank you for watching until the end. Stay tuned here for more videos only on Amazing Manhwa channel.